Hi guys, in this video we're going to be talking about layers and how they matter during your montage. So as you can see here, open in Photoshop, I have all of my images that I'm going to need and they're already pre-cut out. So I have my Ferris wheel where I've gotten rid of the background, I have my mushrooms where I've gotten rid of the grass, clouds where I haven't gotten rid of anything, but you'll see what I'm going to do with those, and then my eye where I've just gotten rid of the interior of her eye and kept her face. So before I'm ready to start combining these images together, what I have to do is open a new document. So I'm going to come up here to File, and I'm going to hit New. When yours pops up, you may not have these custom ones that I already have because I use Photoshop fairly often. So I already have custom boards built in. But what you will see is this over here. So what you can do is change the title of it. I'm going to change it to Montage Skill Builder. Ooh, there you go. And then it may have your width in inches, it may have your width preset in pixels. We're going to go ahead and change that to inches because it's a little bit easier to understand numerically. Then you can decide what type of orientation you want, so whether you want your image to be vertical or your image to be horizontal. I'm going to go with vertical. And I am going to actually shift these numbers to the same size as a piece of paper, so 8.5 by 11. Down here it says your resolution is at 32, or 72. We're going to switch that up to 300 as well. So it just means that your picture will be, it won't pixelate as easily or get blurry as easily. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit create, and then I should have, it just adds it to your bar up here where it's just a blank, looks like a piece of paper, says Montage Skill Builder. So this is where I'm going to be taking all those photos that I already cut out and piling them in to create my finished image. So first thing I need to do is bring my eye picture into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my move tool. That's this tool up here on the left hand corner. When you hit your move tool, it literally just moves the image, so you can drag it and drop it wherever you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to drag it. I'm going to hover over where it had said Montage Skill Builder, and then I'm going to drop it. So that entire time that I was moving that, I was keeping my mouse pad pressed down, right? So here I have my eye with her eye cut out, right? Now you'll notice that this isn't filling the whole space, and I do want it to fill the whole space, so what I'm going to do is make it larger. To do that, what I'm going to do is hit Control T, which is Control Transform, and you'll see the rescaling boxes pop up around it. Now when you rescale, it's just like anything that you rescale. In any other program, you want to hold the shift button down while you drag so that it changes everything at the same rate and you don't get anything wonky. So for instance, if I were to do that and I just grab this middle one and I stretch it down, right, it makes her eye look like a wonky shape. So I don't want to do that. I want to hold that shift button down and resize it that way so it doesn't get too wonky. So I'm going to shift it over just a little bit. I like seeing a little bit of the nose. And then I'm going to hit the enter button to make those boxes go away. So now my eye fills that page the way I like it to. I actually think I might like it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's good. Might have to lose some. Yeah, right about there. And enter. Okay. So now, when I come over to the right side of my screen, you should see your layers panel. If you don't see your layers panel, that means you need to open your layers panel. So when I go ahead and click right here where it says layers, you will see my background layer, which is locked, which I'm going to unlock. And then you will see the layer I just added, which is that eye layer. The next thing I'm going to do is bring in those clouds that I had, because those are going to become the color in her eyes. I'm going to come over here, clouds, move tool, drag it on over, and drop it. Now luckily this dropped right where I wanted it to. It dropped behind the eye. It could have potentially dropped in front of the eye, in which case it would have looked like this. This is where your layers come into play. I don't want my clouds on top of her eye. I want my clouds behind her eye, so I have to make sure that that layer is behind the layer I want it on. Now again, I'm going to transform that image. So I hit Control T so I can size that the way that I want. I want to see the majority of those clouds in her eye. Now I'm only going to be able to make it so small and still fill her whole eye, so it's probably going to have to be about that big. Right, takes a second of playing around with. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, but I'm going to stay selected on that layer too, and I'm just going to shift this image. I'm using my arrow keys here. I'm just going to shift this image around and kind of figure out where the best place for it to kind of sit is. I really like that like kind of yellowy cloud that's over there, but I also like having like a decent amount of the blue, so I'm thinking probably about like right there. So you can see we're seeing through that top layer to the second layer. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in my Ferris wheel because I want the Ferris wheel to kind of look like the iris of her eye. Ferris wheel. So I'm going to go ahead again, grab my move tool, and I'm moving my Ferris wheel, dragging it, and dropping it into that eye. Again, it dropped just where I wanted it. If this had dropped above the eye, right, that's not the look I'm going for. I need it to drop below the eye. If it had potentially dropped even below the clouds, I wouldn't have seen it at all, and I would need to drag it and drop it. So it is in between the eye and the clouds. But again, I'm going to transform it so that it is the size that I want. Again, remember I want this to look like it's the iris of her eye. If you are doing this and you need to undo something, quick way to undo is Control Z. And go ahead and hit enter and see what that looks like. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Not quite happy with that size. A little bit smaller. Maybe even just a smidge right there. Yeah, good. And then hit enter. So it looks like that Ferris wheel is kind of the center of her eye. And then one last thing I was going to add was going to be the mushrooms. And I was just going to take these and kind of like line them on her, like underneath her eye, underneath like the Ferris wheel. But I'm not so sure that I want to do that now. So we're going to see what it looks like. I'm going to take my lasso tool because I only want one of these at a time. So right now, if I were to drag and drop these, they are dragging and dropping together at the same time. I don't necessarily want that. So I would just want the smaller one. So I'm going to use my lasso tool and I'm just going to select around that and now use my move tool. And I'm only going to move that small one, right? Because that's the only one that I want. So I'm going to drag that and drop that. And again, that dropped right where I wanted it in between the Ferris wheel and the eye. So my plan was kind of to have these like almost like Alice in Wonderland, like growing out of the bottom of her eye here. But again, like I said, I don't know quite if I want to do that still. So let's see what it looks like. You can also use the transform tool to tilt images. So I want this to be tilted slightly. And now I want a couple more of these mushrooms, I think. So I'm going to hit layer 4, which is where the mushrooms are. I'm going to right click on layer 4 and I'm going to duplicate the layer and hit OK. So now I have a layer 4 and I have a layer 4 copy. So I can come over, grab my move tool, and there you go. I have 2 of them. So I want to do another one, but I want it to tilt the opposite direction. And kind of have these like mushroomy growths coming out of her eye, I guess. I'm going to come over and grab the bigger one. Oh, that's really big. And then adjust that down. Yeah. Let's actually see what that looks like. kind of funky. Make it a little bit smaller again, so it kind of fits in with these other guys. And yeah, I think I like that. Sorry if you guys can hear my dog. He's whining. And then I'm just going to quickly add just a couple more of those mushrooms into the eye, just to kind of put some finishing touches on it. But I think you guys are seeing the point here. With your layers, it's really important that you know what is on top of what, and then when you drag and drop, it's not always going to drag and drop exactly where you want. So knowing how to shift the layers around so you get the overlapping that you're looking for. With this project, overlapping is like a huge part of what we're doing. So you definitely don't want to like arrange your items so they're all just like sitting next to each other. You want them to be all kind of like overlapped. So there you go, you have the finished product where her eye is taken out, but then replaced with some of these other like items that you wouldn't typically expect to be in there. I also think compositionally, like I have a lot of dead space down here with like the rest of her face, so I potentially might want to crop the image. In order to crop an image, all you do is you come over here to your toolbar, third tool down, looks like a square, and you can just drag and drop your toolbar how you want, and then your cropping bar, and then hit enter, and then it'll crop that down for you. So then like when you're looking at this picture at 100%, you can really see more of the details like in the eye, right? All right, thank you guys. This was layers.